Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever noticed that the more you try not to think about something, the more it dominates your mind? Try this. Do not think about a pink elephant. And yet, there it is, standing in your mind's eye, laughing at your effort to push it away. This is the very nature of unwanted thoughts, feelings, and emotions. They are like uninvited guests at a party. The more you try to shove them out the door, the more insistent they become. We live under the illusion that we must get rid of them to find peace, but the more we struggle, the deeper they take root. What if I told you that you do not have to resist them? What if the way to be free is not to fight, but to allow, to stop pushing the river and instead flow with it? Tonight I invite you on a journey that does not ask you to change your mind, but to understand it. A journey that does not demand that you conquer emotions, but to see through them. If you stay with me, I promise you one thing. By the end of this talk, you will no longer be a prisoner of your thoughts. You will be their silent witness. So let us begin. We struggle with unwanted thoughts because we believe we must control them. Yet the more we resist, the stronger they become. It is a peculiar trick of the mind. When we declare war on our thoughts, they multiply like an army of echoes, each one louder than the last. We tell ourselves, I must not feel anxious. And suddenly, anxiety tightens its grip. We say, I should not think about this, and the very effort ensures that we do. It is as if the mind, like a mischievous child, does precisely the opposite of what it is told. The problem is not the thoughts themselves, but the belief that they must be tamed. The mind is a river constantly flowing, and we stand on the shore trying to stop the current with our bare hands. The moment we fight a thought, we give it significance as if it were an enemy that must be defeated. Yet in trying to defeat it, we feed it. Even guilt and shame over our emotions become a kind of fuel, keeping them alive longer than necessary. We treat thoughts as intruders, when in reality they are only passing visitors. Consider a clear sky with drifting clouds. When we look up, we do not try to chase the clouds away. We simply watch them pass. The same is true for thoughts. We do not need to eliminate them, only to stop identifying with them. When we stop treating them as problems, they lose their power. But when we try to control the uncontrollable, we create our own suffering. It is not the presence of thoughts that binds us. It is our insistence that they should not be there. True freedom is not in suppressing thoughts, but in allowing them to flow without attachment. The mind is like a vast sky, and thoughts are mere clouds, sometimes dark and stormy, sometimes light and fleeting. Yet we make the mistake of thinking we are the clouds rather than the sky itself. We attach to every thought, identifying with it, believing it has some absolute truth about who we are. A fearful thought appears and we say, I am afraid. A sad memory arises and we say, I am broken. But is this really so? Do thoughts define you, or are they just passing phenomena, like ripples in a pond? The trouble begins the moment we assume control over something that was never meant to be controlled. A thought arises, and instead of letting it drift by, we grab hold of it, examine it, judge it, try to fix it. But in doing so, we give it life. We think we must get rid of it to find peace. Yet in our effort to push it away, we give it more attention, more energy, more power. The paradox is this: the more you try to suppress a thought, the more forcefully it returns. Now imagine allowing thoughts to come and go as they please without interference. They arise, they linger, they pass, just as waves rise and fall without disturbing the ocean's depths. You are not the waves. You are the ocean. When you stop grasping at thoughts, when you stop fearing their presence, they lose their weight. They no longer demand your attention. And in that space of non-resistance, in that effortless awareness, true peace is found. Not in the absence of thoughts, but in the realization that they were never yours to control. When we witness our emotions as passing clouds rather than absolute truths, they lose their grip on us. But most of us do not simply feel an emotion, we become it. We do not say sadness is here, we say I am sad. We do not notice anxiety as a passing sensation, we declare I am anxious. And the moment we claim ownership of a feeling, we invite it to stay. We feed it with our attention, with our resistance, with our desire to make it go away. Yet, have you ever noticed that emotions, when left alone, fade naturally? Like waves crashing on the shore, they rise and fall on their own unless we keep stirring the waters. Evolution is the key, not observation with judgment, not the voice in your head saying this feeling is bad or I shouldn't be thinking this, but pure, silent witnessing. Have you ever watched a flame flicker in the dark? If you stare at it long enough, you don't try to change it, you simply watch. And in that watching, something shifts. The same is true for thoughts and emotions. When you observe them as an outsider, without attaching meaning, they lose their power over you. The mind plays a clever trick. It tells you that thoughts must be solved, that emotions must be conquered. But have you ever wondered what happens if you do nothing? If you simply sit with your fear, your sorrow, your discomfort, without engaging in the endless mental commentary? In doing so, you see that they are nothing more than energy passing through. They are not you. They never were. And the moment you realize this, you no longer need to push them away because they were never holding on to you in the first place. Thoughts are like waves in the ocean. You are not the wave, but the vast, still depths beneath. Yet, most of us spend our lives identifying with the surface, tossed around by every ripple, every surge, every crashing tide of thought and emotion. We mistake movement for reality, forgetting that beneath the turbulence, the ocean remains untouched, still, infinite. The mind, like the sea, is always shifting. Thoughts rise and fall, emotions come and go. But what happens when we stop chasing the waves? What happens when we stop fearing them, stop trying to control them, and instead recognize that we were never the waves to begin with? Most people believe they must fix their minds, that unwanted thoughts must be silenced, that emotions must be managed. But this belief itself is the trap. The moment you think, I must stop thinking, you are already caught in another thought. The moment you say, I must not feel this way, you have already created resistance. And resistance is what feeds the illusion that you are trapped. The truth is, you are only caught because you believe you are. The ocean never fights the waves. It allows them to rise and fall, knowing they cannot disturb the depths. If you sit by the shore and watch the waves, they do not harm you. They move, they crash, they dissolve, and yet you remain. In the same way, when you watch your thoughts without identifying with them, they lose their power. Fear arises, but you do not become fear. Sadness appears, but you do not become sadness. The waves will always be there, but they can no longer pull you under, because you have remembered the truth. You were never just the surface. You were always the depths. Unwanted emotions persist because we try to escape them. The moment we accept them, they dissolve. It is a strange paradox. What we run from chases us. What we resist strengthens. What we avoid lingers. We spend our lives trying to rid ourselves of discomfort, of fear, of sadness, as if they are enemies to be defeated. We distract ourselves, suppress our emotions, drown them in entertainment, in busyness, in denial. But have you ever noticed that the more you try to push something away, the more it demands your attention? A song stuck in your head only fades when you stop trying to forget it. An itch ignored grows stronger until you finally scratch it. The same is true for emotions. When you say, I should not feel this way, you give power to the feeling. When you tell yourself, this thought must go away, you lock yourself in a battle you can never win. But what happens when you turn toward the feeling instead of away from it? What happens when, instead of running, you sit still and let it be something unexpected? It begins to lose its grip. Like a guest who receives no attention, it eventually leaves. The mind is always seeking something, pleasure, certainty, relief. But the great secret is that you don't have to do anything with emotions. You don't have to fix them, fight them, analyze them. You only have to allow them to be. When you stop treating them as problems, they stop being problems. When you surrender to the present moment, when you let go of the need to control what arises, you find that emotions, like waves, naturally come and go. And in that space of allowing, of effortless acceptance, peace emerges, not because you made it happen, but because it was always there, waiting beneath the struggle. You do not have to rid yourself of thoughts. Instead, recognize that you were never bound by them in the first place. We spend our lives believing that every thought, every feeling, every whisper of the mind is something to be dealt with, something that must be controlled or solved. But who told you that you were ever trapped inside your own mind? Who told you that thoughts have power over you? Look closely and you will see thoughts are nothing more than passing ripples on the surface of consciousness, momentary flashes of energy that appear and disappear without effort. The mistake we make is believing that every thought matters, that because a thought appears we must do something about it. But do you respond to every cloud in the sky? Do you analyze every wave in the ocean? Thoughts arise not because you will them into being, but because that is what the mind does. The heart beats, the lungs breathe, and the mind thinks. It is simply the nature of things. But the difference between peace and suffering is whether you choose to engage with every passing thought or simply watch it, like leaves floating down a river. Freedom is not about having no thoughts. It is about realizing that thoughts have no hold on you unless you grasp them. A bird may land on your shoulder, but you do not have to let it build a nest. In the same way, a thought may enter your mind, but you do not have to entertain it. The moment you see this clearly, the weight of thoughts vanishes, not because you pushed them away, but because you stop believing they ever had chains to bind you in the first place. And so the great irony is this: the moment you stop fighting your mind, you are free from it. The moment you stop trying to control your thoughts, they no longer control you. What if there was never anything to fix? What if the struggle was never necessary? Look closely and you will see the waves were never a threat to the ocean, the clouds were never separate from the sky, and your thoughts, no matter how persistent, were never changed. You have spent so much time trying to escape the mind, but there is nothing to escape. The river flows whether you resist it or not. The waves rise and fall whether you fear them or not. So why not let go? Why not trust the natural rhythm of things? In the space of allowing, in the silence of pure awareness, you will find that peace was never something to be reached. It was simply what remained when the struggle ceased. There is nothing you must do, nothing you must fix. Just watch, just witness. And in that simple act of seeing, you will understand. You were never bound. You were always free.